This is Gemara Sanhedrin, Daf Tes Zayin, and today's shir, as well as all these shirim for the month of Teves, has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf, Lezchut Aliyas Neshama, for Aryeh ben Rav Ya'akov, whose yahrzeit was actually the day this Daf is being recorded on Aleph Teves. Psiyata Deshmaya, the Koyach HaTorah, should bring Rav Aryeh ben Rav Ya'akov to a higher place in Gan Eden Shalmaila, closer to the Kisei HaKavod, as he has nachas, looking down and watching his children and grandchildren learning Torah and be a melitz yesher on the entire chabura. We're holding on to Zvavim and Beis. We're about 10 lines from the bottom as we again quote the Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva Omer teaches Rabbi Akiva, and this is Shita Shalishis. This is the third Shita regarding killing animals in the Mishnah. Teaches Rabbi Akiva, teaches Rabbi Akiva that you need a bezdin of 23. Asks the Gemara, wait, Rabbi Akiva Hainu Tanikama. It's not a third shita. It's seemingly the same thing as Tanikama. Says the Gemara, there is one difference. Ika beinayu nachash. The difference is a nachash. According to Tanikama, a nachash is included in that which needs a bezdin of Esther B'Shalosh 23. But Rabbi Akiva said no, a nachash could be killed right away. As Rashmi, 4 lines from the Y line, speaks out that the Tanakama includes the Nachash for those that have to be killed by 23. Rav Akiva be'enach svir le'kavasei bar minachash kamina bar ba'avos nizikin. Sishitas Rabbi Akiva and Bava Kama Nachash muad la'ilam divrei akol. So Rabbi Akiva in that detail disagrees with the Tanakama, and he holds a snake could be killed right away. Ein Adanin continues the Gemara, quoting the next din in the Mishnah, that an entire shevet needs to be donned. How? A bezdin of Ayin Echad 71. Asks the Gemara, what is this chait of the shevet that we are referring to, that you need a bezdin Sanhedrin Agadol? If it's a shevet that was Mechal Shabbos, I don't understand. When do we find a chilik in the Torah between singular people and a rabbim doing an avera? Is only regard to avodah zara. B'shar mitzvos mi pligi. So why would chilul Shabbos be any different? Rather, says the Gemara, el b'shevet must be referring to shehudach, a shevet that went and started being ovid avodah zara. The halacha is that we need the Sanhedrin Agadol to don such a case. Ask the Gemara, Lememra, this means to say, the Bedina de Rabin Danina Lei. This sounds like that one who is Ovid Avodah Zara is danned Din de Rabim. Sanhedrin Agadol. Kiman. But whose opinion is this, says the Gemara, 6 lines to the bottom? Loika Rav Yeshaya, Loika Rav Yonason. The Tanya we learned in a Raisa. Ad kamo isinir nidachas. How many people have to be in a city in order for it to get a din of an ir nidachas, a din in which the whole city has to be destroyed? Meyod ve'ad kof devi Rav Yeshaya. Rav Yeshaya says between 10 and 100 people. Rav Yonason Amar mikof ad rubai. From 100 until Roiv of the city. Again, from 10 to 100 people being Ovid of a Desara. Or from 100 until Roiv of the city shall shave it of the entire Shevet. And continues the Gemara of Afilu Rav Yonason, who is the second Yeshita, like Amar El Rubai, Avul Kulay La. He never said you need to have kol shevet. Our Mishnah said what? Shevet sounds like kol shevet. Sounds like it has to be the whole shevet, but it's neither Rav Yonason nor Rav Yeshaya. Answers the Gemara Amar Rav Masna. What are we referring to? Achaz. We turn over to Tezayin Amar Aleph, says Rav Masna, referring to Nasi Shevet Shechata. Says Rav Masna, what are we referring to? Referring to the Nasi of a Shevet that did an Aveira, and the Nasi needs to be judged by an bezdin of Esther Ve'achad, and the Tab Rashi spells out, and this is Mikol Misais bezdin. Explains the Gemara. Asks the Gemara, 1 second, Milama Ravada Barava. Did Ravada Barava not say, Kol Davar Gadol, Yaviu Eilecha, quoting the pasuk in Parshas Yisrael, Devarav Shal Gadol, And with that, we learn out is matters concerning a gadol, a great person. Hi nami gadolu. So a nasi is a gadol. So the question is, a nasi then should always need bezdin shel eser ve'echad Sanhedrin gadol. So why is there anything special going on over here? Says the Gemara, Ula Amar Rav Elazar. Ula says in Imra Rav Elazar, Bayin al Iskei Nachalais. We're talking about a case when the Nasi is coming to litigate cases of Nachalais, to figure out where the different territories are in Eretz Yisrael. Utchila shel Eretz Yisrael. And the reason why a Sanhedrin Agadol is needed is just like the Tchila, just like the beginning of the division in Eretz Yisrael. Ma Tchila Shivim ve'echad avkan Shivim ve'echad. Just like originally 71 is needed, so too, in such a case of a Nasi trying to figure out cases of the Nachla of different territories, you need a Bezdin of 71. Ask the Gemara 1 sec. Says the Gemara, Tchilasa, they had the lotteries drawn with the Urim V'Tumim. V'chol Yisrael and Gans Klal Yisrael's there. Avkan, Kalfi, Urim V'Tumim, V'chol Yisrael. So we should say the same thing if the whole reason is that we're equating it to the original Nachala. So ask the Gemara, it should be the same thing when a Nasi comes to discuss territorial shaylos. Ela machavarta kid Rav Masna. Rather, the Gemara concludes, let's go with Rav Masna, which was the line on the top of the Samad Benasi Shevet Shechata. Continues the Gemara with a new pshat. Ravina Amar, well, it's a new pshat, but it's really coming to explain the previous pshat. La'ilam b'shevet shahudach. Really, we're talking about a shevet shahudach. A shevet to that was Ovid of a Desaro to Kakashi Loch. And your question was, what in the bottom of Amid Beis? B'dina derabin dainina lei. And that is true. Afal gav de katalinon biyachid. B'dina derabim dainina nei. Danina lei. And the Chiddush explains Ravina that it is indeed true that with regard to Katola, with regard to the execution, the skila that is necessary, we would don them as an individual who would not need such a bezdin. But with regard to the actual Beidina, the judgment that will need the Sanhedrin Agadol, meaning the Misa, the act of Hariga, of Skila, that wouldn't need, but the actual court case would, yes, need. And Ravina says, you know where I got this from? Quoting a pasuk in Devarim, you take out that man or that woman. Ish ve'isha atamaiti l'sharecha. V'yata maiti kol ha'ir kulo l'sharecha. So says Rav Chama Rav Yasi that ish ve'isha you bring out, but you do not take kol ha'ir l'sharecha. Rather, why do you not take them l'sharecha? But rather it is done by Sanhedrin Agadol. So proves Rav Chama Rav Yasi that for the entire city they will be donned by the Sanhedrin Agadol. Proving our point that Kol Shevet will have to indeed endure the din of the Sanhedrin Agadol, in as much as the Misa, the Hariga, the Skila is done without such Sanhedrin. We continue 8 lines from the white lines, quoting the Mishnah, Lo yes Navi HaSheker. Says the Gemara, Navi HaSheker as well needs a bezdin of 71. Ask the Gemara, where do you know this from? We learn how to zira shava malizak halon by zakim amri b'shem echad avkan b'shem echad. Ask the Gemara of Hazada. 1 second. When it comes to Hazada, one who willfully does an aveira ki kesiva bekatalo udechsiva. It's talking about death bekatalo be'esiv v'talasu. But I don't understand, says the Gemara. When it comes to death, you only need 23, not 71. Elam Reish Lakish, you're right. A new Gzeira Shav on the last airline. Gamar Davar. Meham Rasai Ula Hadar. We learn how Gzeira Shav of Meham Rasai, from the act of rebellion by the Zakein, that the only way he's considered a Zakein Mamrei is if he's going Keneged, the Hamara. The rebellion is against the Bezdin of Esher Shim V'echad of 71. So too, in our case, that's why you're going to need 71. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Says, I don't understand. Let's go backwards. Let's learn the Zaken Mamre from Xer Shava from a Navi Sheker. And that what? That maybe it should indeed require the Sanhedrin Agadol even by the Zaken Mamre. Says the Gemara, Davar, Gomer, Hazada, Gomer, one Xer Shava we do learn, the Xer Shava we don't learn. And of course, this has to do with the night of Xer Shava that we have a Messiah on. And therefore, says the Gemara, we only learn Hazada, we only learn Davar. Continues the Gemara of Loyas Kohen Agadol. Kohen Agadol needs a Sanhedrin Agadol Minahan immediately on the second white line, number Avada Barava. Damar Cross says the Base Kol Adavar Agadol Yaviu Alecha Dvarav Shel Gadol. Dvarav Shel Gadol matters concerning a great person. The Kohen Gadol goes to the Sanhedrin Agadol. Meisvei asks the Gemara Davar Gadol Davar Kasha Toimer. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. Davar Gadol means Davar Kasha. Atomer Davar Kasha now Dvarav Shel Gadol. Kshoimer, when the pasuk continues, Davar Kasha Viu Amay Shari Davar Kasha Amar. Who Damar, Kiatam. One more time. Kshoimer has Davar Kasha Viu Amay Hari Davar Kasha Amar. Davar Kasha is already said. So says the Gemara. So it should mean Davar Gadol. Answers the Gemara. Who Damar Kiatanya on the 6th wide line. Titania Davar Gadol Dvarav Shel Gadol. Atar Davar Shel Gadol. Oinu Allah Davar Akasha. Kshoimer Davar Kasha Hari Davar Kasha Amar. Hamani Mekain Davar Gadol Dvarav Shel Gadol. So concludes the Gemara that because we have these two limudim of Davar Gadol Davar Kasha, we're able to learn out both drashas. Vaitana Trei Krai Lamali. So says the Gemara, so Lamaisa we end up with two psukim. Explains the Gemara, Chad le'tzava ba'ama v'chad la'asiyah. One is talking about the tzava, the commandment, and one is talking about the actual act of carrying out the court case. The Torah should have used the same pasuk. My gadol and my kasha. Shma'amina tarti. We can learn out both drashas, and that's what we're going to learn out the din of davar gadol and the din of gavar kasha. Continues the Gemara with the Shiloh. We're 10 lines down. The first one line is kasha ba'i Rav Elazar shayrai shel koyin gadol bekam. Ask Rav Elazar, what is the din of the shar, the acts of a koyin gadol? And the Gemara explains what's the Shiloh. Lemi says bailam didei midam ninolei adoma. Lemi says bailam dalma midam ninolei. How do we equate to the shar of a koyin gadol? Do we equate him like every misa of any bailim, so it's going to need a bezin of 23? Or is it like his baal, which is it need a bezin of 71? Amar Abaye medekam mebayale shayrai, for the fact that has kash of shar mechlal dimamayne pshita lei. Mammon is pashit pshita that mechlal dimanai pshita lei, that what it needs a regular din of mammon of 3 dayanim. Says the Gemara, pshita, of course. Why should the money of a kohen gadol be any different? Meaning, what's your grace of chiddush that the money of a kohen gadol requires 3? So says the Gemara, now we understand what's going on over here. Because of davar, kol davar agadol, kol divarav shel gadol. The havamina is everything of the kohen gadol. Kol davar shel gadol. Kamash Malan says the Gemara, no, only certain divarav shel gadol, but of course the regular mundane monetary matters will go in front of a bezdin of 3. Continues the Gemara with another case that requires a bezdin of 71, which is what? Going out to war. Ein moitziim, we don't go out to war without the Sanhedrin Agadol. Menani immediately where he knows Damar Avua Damar Cross says the Torah of Levnei Elazar HaKohen Yamoid. Front of Elazar HaKohen, he shall stand. Who? What is he referred to? Yeshua. Zeh HaMelech Chol Bnei Yisrael Itoi. Zeh Meshuach Melchama V'chol Eida. Zeh Sanhedrin. So we see from here, you need the Melech, you need Yeshua, you need the Melech, you need the Meshuach Melchama, and you need the Sanhedrin. So what do we see? Sanhedrin is a critical nikuda. You have to discuss with the Sanhedrin before going to battle. Ask the Gemara of Adama Sanhedrin Udikamerlei. Ask the Gemara, but maybe the Basik means that the Sanhedrin, they have to ask. Sanhedrin, maybe the Basik means Sanhedrin, why? Because you have to ask the Urim V'Tumim. But the Sanhedrin itself is not what is necessary. Udikamerlei Rachmana. So the Sanhedrin could ask Urim V'Tumim. Meaning the Gemara is wondering, is it a din in the Sanhedrin or is it a din in the Urim V'Tumim? 10 lines in the bottom. The first one line is Rav Shimon Chasida. There was a harp, and if this sounds familiar, that's Gavaldik. This is a Gemara that we had in Brachos many, many moons ago at the very beginning of Shas. There was a harp that was hanging above the head of David HaMelech. The northern wind would blow, and it was playing his own. Miyad, at that moment, David would get up from his bed, he would learn Chacham came to him. They need food. And the Chuvis Barnes who go feed them. That means that one from another. Must be a He can't. There's not enough food to feed each other. You can't fill the Ari from its own feeding trough. You cannot fill the bar from its own dirt. So says David HaMelech, go out and Pashidichem Bigidod, go fight. Miyad, what do? They ask Achitophel Sanhedrin, and that's a raya. They ask Urim. So says the Gemara, what do we see? We need to ask Sanhedrin. Where do we see in the pasuk that there are these three necessary steps? There's Achitophel, there is the Sanhedrin, there is the Urim V'Tumim. As we turn over to Tezayim and Beis, explains the Gemara of Achrei Tofel ben Yoyadav Ev Yasser Sar Savol Melech Yoyev Achitophel Ze Yoyatz was the advisor. B'cheinu Omer, the pasuk says that's Achitophel Shoyatz. The Gomer. Ben Yoyadav was whom? Ze Sanhedrin. Ev Yasser Urim V'Tumim. B'cheinu Omer, the pasuk says Ben Yoyadav al Crazy Vel Aplesi. V'lamenik Shemai Crazy Uplesi. Karsi Crazy is what? Shekarsin Devrei and Plesi Shemafliyim Ayisayim. And after you ask them, after then, you ask the king. Excuse me, Lamelech Yoyev. Amar Rav Yitzchak Breder Rav Hadav Amri Lo Amar Rav Yitzchak Bar Rav Dumi Mai Kara Ura Kvaidi Ura Nevel V'Kinar Ira Shachar. That's what we see in the pasuk that David HaMelech would wake up from the harp in the middle of the night, daven, learn, and then deal with the Sanhedrin and all of Klal Yisrael. And we continue about 12 lines down, the two dots. Ve'in moisiven al ir quotes the Gemara, quotes the Mishnah, we don't add on to a city except with the Sanhedrin Agadol. Minan immediately, where do we know this from? Amar Rav Simi Bar Chia, Amar Kol Shani Mare Oscha, as Damnis Amishkan Veskol Keila, V'chein Tasen, you also should do the Tairais Abayin for all generations. So what do? We see that when it comes to the Mishkan, when it comes to the Kelim, that requires a Moshe Rabbeinu, that requires a Sanhedrin Agadol. So too, when it comes to the Beis HaMikdash, when it comes to, as we're quoting, Moisifen Aliyah, which the V'chulu included, adding on to the Chutz of the Beis HaMikdash itself, you need a Sanhedrin Agadol. Masiv Rava, but ask Rava, Kol HaKelim Shasa Moshe, all the Kelim Moshe Rabbeinu made, Mishichasan, Mikachan, Mikan, Ve'ilach Avodasa Mechan Chasam. The Kelim Moshe Rabbeinu made, he anointed them with oil, and that was their Kiddush process. Mekan Ve'ilach Avodah, utilizing the Kelim Mechan Chasam, that is their Chinuch, that's what gives them the Kedusha. But ask the Gemara of Amai, name of V'chein Tas L'Dayros Abayim. Why don't we learn how V'chein Tas L'Dayros Abayim? That you need Meshicha B'Shemeh, you need the anointment with the oil for all future generations. Answers the Gemara, Shiny Asam, and Moshe Rabbeinu was different. Amar Cross says the Torah of Yom Shachem, V'ikachem Oisam. Oisam B'Meshicha, V'loi L'Dayros B'Meshicha. Says Mara, wait, Ve'ema, shouldn't we say Oisam B'Meshicha, L'Dayros, Ibe Meshicha, Ibe Avodah? Ask the Gemara, but wait, maybe L'Dayros you have a choice, either with Meshicha or with the Avodah. Amar Abba, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Sheisharsu Bam B'Kodesh, Hakosav Talu B'Shiros. The Torah, the pasuk, hangs it on shiras, on the usage of the item, as coming from the term klishares, and that's why that is what's going to give the kelim the kiddush. Elo oisam lamli, so I need oisam. Ilav oisam avamid elo dairos b'mishicha u'b'avoida. You would think you need both. And so you should tasu. Because rachmana oisam b'mishicha, v'lo dairos b'mishicha, so it doesn't come to extend, but rather it comes to limit. And we're 3 lines from the wide lines, it quotes the Gemara. Quotes the Mishnah of Inaisim Sanhedrios, we cannot create a lower Sanhedrin except with the Sanhedrin Hagadol. Says the Gemara, Minalim, where do you know this from? Says the Gemara, Ashchan bim Moshe, Tuki Sanhedrios, Moshe Bakim Shavim V'Chadkai, as we've been seeing the whole day, that anytime we find Moshe Rabbeinu doing something for perpetuity in the future that requires a bezdin of 71. Tana Rabbanan in the first white line. How do we know that we appoint Shaftim for Klal Yisrael? Tamalemer Shaftim Titin Shaitrin Li Yisrael. Excuse me. Li Yisrael Minayin. How do we know? Excuse me, I said it wrong. One more time. Shaftim Titin. Second line. Shaitrin Li Yisrael Minayin. How do you know we appoint Shaitrin? How do you know we appoint officers? Tamalemer Shaitrin Titin. Shaftim. That the Shaitrim, Titain, you give Shaitrim. Shaiftil chol shevet v'sheinayin. How do we know we have a shayvet? We have a judge for every shevet. Tamalay mar shaiftin l'shvatech. Shaitrim chol shevet v'sheinayin. How do we know we have a shaiter for every shevet? Tamalay mar shaitrim l'shvatech. Shaiftin chol ir v'ir minayin. How do you know we have a shevet for every city? Tamalay mar shaiftin l'sharech. Shaitrim chol ir v'ir minayin. Tamalay l'shaitin l'sharech. Rav Yehuda Emer Elcha Mimayna Al Kulan. There's one appointed, says Rav Yehuda, on all the other Batei Dinim Shemar Titein Lacha, and that's of course the Sanhedrin Agadol. Rashba Gomer L'Shiftatzecha V'Shavtu, says Rav Shimon Gamliel, for the fact that it says L'Shifta, it says L'Shvatecha V'Shavtu, the two words put next to each other, mitzvah B'Shevet Lodun, as Shifta, that teaches is a mitzvah for each Shevet to judge its own Shevet. Is a mitzvah for the shayfet, for the judge to judge each own shevet. We'll go a job further. Says the Gemara, Ve'in oisin ir nidachas. We're about 8 lines into the white lines that you need a bezin of 71. Minan Emili Amar Rav Chibar Yosef Amar Rav Aisha Damar Cross, says the Torah. V'oteiz Yishahu as Isha He Ish Ve'isha Atamoitzi L'Sharecha. But as we saw already today, V'atamoitzi B'chol Ir L'Shvatecha L'Sharecha. That an ir nidachas cannot be close to the border. We continue quoting the Mishnah that 3 ir nidachas cannot be created. You could create 1 or 2. Arecha in the plural. Tanu Rabbanan explains the Gemara. Achas loy shalosh. Atem achas loy shalosh reino achas l'shtayim. Classical kasha. Does 1 come to say not 3, maybe not 2? So then hamani mekayim achas. So from arecha in the plural, you know what? You know 2. So what do you do with the fact that the pasuk says achas? Achas lo shalosh. Zimnin amarav bezdin echad hu de'ein oisin. Habeshnayim v'shalosh bati dinim oisin. Zimnin amarav vilu b'shnayim v'shalosh bati dinim la'ilam ein oisin. My taima derav mishum karacha. Because what's going to happen if you create so many Batei Dinim, you can have a karacha. What's going to happen is it's going to be considered that Eretz Yisrael is desolate. 2 or 3 places in Yehuda, in Ever Yardin, in Galil, etc., you could create. No, even that's a problem. And we conclude, like he said. Close to the border, we can't even make 1. My time, the guy might hear, they'll come to attack Yisrael. Rav Shimoni, the Darish, time they crawl, he's explaining. You're right, that was the reason, as we learned, you can't make a border city into near Nidachas. But why? Because we're afraid of the Goyim coming to attack. We'll pick up from here. B'siyata d'ishmaya.